තෙරුවන් සරණයි හැම දිනාටම. අද අපිට භාග්‍ය උදා වුණා අජාන් බ්‍රහ්මවංශ හාමුදුරුවන්ගේ දේශනාවකට ශ්‍රවණය කරන්න. දේශනාවකට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න. ඒ BMICH එකේ පැවැත්වුණු පබ්ලික් ටෝක් එකට තමයි අපි සම්බන්ධ වුණේ. ඉතින් ඒකේ මුල් දේශනය භාවනාව කොටස නැතුව මුල් දේශනය අපි ඔබට මේ YouTube නාලිකාව ඔස්සේ අහන්න සලස්වනවා. ඉතින් ඔබට පුළුවන් මෙතෙන් පටන් උන්වහන්සේගේ දේශනාව ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂාවෙන් ශ්‍රවණය කරන්න. මේ දේශනාව අවසානයේ සරලව සිංහල භාෂාවෙන් මෙහි තේරුම තවත් ස්වාමින් වහන්සේ කෙනෙක් පැහැදිලි කරනවා. ඉතින් මෙතෙන් පටන් සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න අජාන් බ්‍රහ්මවංශ හාමුදුරුවන්ගේ ඊටමත් වටිනා වූ භාවනාව සම්බන්ධයෙන් කරපු දේශනාවත් එක්ක හැමදෙනාටම තෙරුවන් සරණයි.
So I apologize for coming in a bit late because of the rain. Even the rain, many of you got wet. Please don't look at it as getting wet. Look at it as being blessed by the heavenly beings above BMICH. You can always look at anything in a positive way instead of always being critical. And that is one of the reasons why when we develop a positive attitude in our life, our meditation becomes so much easier and our happiness increases. I've been here in Sri Lanka only, 8 days? 9 days? But you reminded us how beautiful this country is. Because I am visiting, it's like seeing the country with fresh eyes. And seeing all the incredibly wonderful people. And even some of the soldiers, the police, guarding this place. You smile at them and they give this big, toothy smile back. You must have some very good dentists in Colombo. But it's not just a smile to impress people. The smile is coming from an inner state of happiness. If any of you ever look at the Dhammacchedya Sutta, that's in the middle leg stains of Majjhima Nikaya, you'll see there the story of the king Pasenadi going to visit the Lord Buddha. And when the king started talking to the Lord Buddha asked, "Why do you like coming to this monastery so often?" And then one of the reasons was, the king said, "Because when I come into this monastery," that was a famous Jetavana monastery, "when I come in here, the monks are always smiling and happy." I'm looking at the monks in front of me now. That's better. You're smiling. And the Buddha replied, "Yes, great king. That's what you can expect when the monks are cultivating meditation and where they're gaining great insights, that they are smiling more." And that's one of the reasons why I was interested enough to become a Buddhist monk and to meditate more deeply. Now, of course, many people in Sri Lanka and other places have this misconception that meditation is difficult. No. If it's done correctly, meditation is one of the easiest and pleasant things you could ever do. So much so that we do teach it in schools. So much so that I learnt it when I was a teenager. So much so that learning it as a teenager had enormous benefits. Such as when I went to university, and my field of study was theoretical physics, incredibly small, and the huge parts of our universe. And when I had to do an examination, a final examination in theoretical physics to get my degree, I thought degrees were really important. I worked really hard. I studied, I revised. If only I had known that I was going to become a monk, I wouldn't have worked so hard. But I never knew that at the time. And in those days, this was Natural Science Tripos, 1972 at Cambridge. We had a series of, it was 12 exams, 12 papers. Monday morning, Monday afternoon. Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even Saturday. 6 days in a row, 3-hour exam in the morning, hour for lunch, and 3 hours in the afternoon. That was very tough. But I had an advantage. By that time, I knew how to meditate. So during the lunch break, I was a lay person then. I hadn't ordained yet. So being a lay person, I decided not to have any lunch. To have a big breakfast, a big meal in the evening. For lunch hour, I went back to my room to meditate. That was a brilliant thing to do. Because what happened? You've just finished an exam in, say, quantum mechanics in the morning, which is pretty tough. And you have the hour free time before the next exam on astrophysics of the galaxy or something. And that hour in between, I went to my room, sat down on a cushion, and meditated. And this is what happened every lunchtime. As soon as I closed my eyes, I started to think about the morning exam which I'd just completed. This was important. Did I answer the questions correctly or not? And of course, it's easy to say, the morning exam is finished. It's done. You can't change it now. Right or wrong, it's fixed. It's easy to say that you can't change the past. But unless you've done some practice and training, you find it impossible to do. But I'd done that training. I learned my meditation. So I could let go of the past, which to me was a morning exam, pretty quickly. And as soon as I just discarded the past, the morning exam, the next thing which came into my mind was the afternoon exam. Should I get some books out and do some more revision? I'd done that in the past. There's any school children at the back over there helping out, please remember, before the next exam, you need to rest your brain. Don't go making it more tired. So I let go of the fear and worry about the afternoon exam. That's why I could come into what these days we call the present moment, being here. And as soon as I got into the present moment, I had a shock. Because I found out that I was shaking. I'm not normally an anxious person. I'm not normally nervous. Many of you see me many times, like today, giving a talk in front of a big crowd. I always don't prepare anything. I relax. Many people say that's the most nervous and frightening thing you can ever do, to give a public talk. I remember even one of the first times I came here to give a public talk. Somebody told me they'd put it on live TV nationwide here in Sri Lanka. Imagine doing that. You're on live TV. You made one mistake and you're in big trouble. No preparation, no training. You just got there, relax and teach. So anyway, I never was a nervous person, I thought. But now, when I was going to do the afternoon exam in half an hour, it's obvious you would be a bit nervous and anxious. But once I saw myself shaking, it was pretty easy to relax your body, so all that shaking stopped. Later on in this talk, I hope to show you, or actually at least to indicate to you, how when you do learn how to meditate, that increases your health enormously. The power of meditation on your physical health is something which here in Sri Lanka is not used enough. I'll come on to that later. But anyway, I could relax my body. And after relaxing my body, the last thing I noticed in only half an hour's meditation was my brain. It was exhausted. You've done a 3-hour exam on some deep part of physics. You put all your energy, effort, mindfulness, energy into doing this. Of course you will be tired. And so when I saw how exhausted my brain was, then I knew I could just stay with it with what these days I call kindfulness. Being aware of how I felt inside, but just being kind to it. Like a mother who is with a sick child, and the mother's smile and kindness means the child doesn't feel any fear, can relax and heal. My mindfulness was like a mother. It was my brain which was like the child. I needed to heal that child and bring it up to full energy, which I did every lunch hour. After half an hour of practicing simple meditation, kindfulness, when I came out of meditation and then I went to the examination hall for the afternoon exam, my friends told me this, I wasn't really aware of it. My friends said I was the only student who went into the afternoon exams with a smile on my face. Everyone else was worried. I was smiling. Only afterwards they told me that. They said they thought I was cheating. In a way I was cheating. In a way I was doing something else no one else knew how to do. How to relax the mind, bring it up to full energy, full power, and then do a good afternoon exam. That's why I did very well. That's why I teach that now to others. The last people I taught that to, interestingly, was the local Jewish school in Western Australia. It's called Carmel School. I knew the rabbi there, and he was a good friend. I don't just hang around with other Buddhists. I think it's important that I get feedback from others. Even nice to see people, not just Theravada nuns, there's many Mahayana nuns here as well, welcome. And so that when I meet others, I get feedback. And this man became a very good friend, Rabbi Moshe Bernstein. And also, he once asked me, can you please come to our school? The last year in school is doing the important exam, university entrance. Can you please come and teach my students? They're struggling. And of course I did that. And of course I just taught them what I've just taught you. When I left, a couple of weeks later, I got a letter in the post from the principal of the Jewish school in Western Australia, saying thank you. That year, their school came top of all the schools in Western Australia on the basis of their exam results. It actually works. If you are going to perform very harsh intellectual pursuits, you have to know how your brain and your mind work so you can actually reach the highest potential. As a monk, I know how to do that. As a monk, I teach that. In schools, there should be more meditation taught. Doesn't matter if you're Christian or whatever, teach it. This was over 20 years ago, I think more likely 30 years ago, maybe 25. The one of my followers, she was a meditator, Australian, Caucasian, her name was Kelly, and she was a teacher in year 6 at school. And she told me that she had the same class for the whole school year, and she would always begin the day with what she called quiet time. Meditation, which she learned from me. And started off with 5 minutes and built it up to about 15 or 20 minutes by the end of the year. And this area where she lived was a very strong Christian area. And she was a bit afraid that many of the parents might complain that she was converting everybody to being a Buddhist. Of course, you know Buddhist monks and Buddhist faith, we don't convert people. We just want to be compassionate to all beings. So anyway, the results were enormous. It wasn't just the academic achievements of these year 6s, that's about 11 or 12-year-olds, but also their social harmony. This was a class of boys and girls getting close to the puberty years. There was a lot of competition between the girls and the boys, and the girls and the girls and the boys and the boys. And whenever there was about to be an argument in the school, one of the kids would put their hand up. Can we have quiet time now? And they would all agree. That's the way they solve conflict. I may be going too far in this request, but wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if in the Sri Lankan Parliament, whenever there was an argument, if someone put their hand up, can we have quiet time now, please? Because when they have the quiet time, it means that people have a chance to relax, to be able to reflect on their actions, to feel more kindness and softness instead of just taking the most antagonistic positions. And as I mentioned, the academic results went right up, but then sooner or later, the parents found out, you're teaching our children meditation. We're Christians, we don't do meditation. But the principal of that school, who was a very strong Christian, he told me, I will defend you almost to the death. I've seen how beneficial this is. So it was this Christian principal, he was my ally. He told all these parents who complained, this is really good for your children. It makes them harmonious. The emotional benefits he was stressing, as well as the academic benefits. And that is so true. But many people feel that meditation is too hard for them. It is the simplest thing in the world when you know how to do it properly. I will now teach you a simple meditation. Practice is much better than words. You may have seen me do this before many times, but this is how to meditate. First of all, meditation does not mean concentration. If it did mean concentration, then anyone who came on my meditation retreat in Bandarawela, we finished a couple of days ago, you've been coming to a concentration camp. It's not concentration, it means stillness. So my goal is to have this water in my glass become perfectly still. How can I do that? Has it stopped moving yet? You know why? I'm not being mindful, am I? I'm now being mindful. Watch what I'm doing. Has it become still yet? No, I'm not concentrating. Now honestly, if you try this, the more you concentrate, the more you try to hold this still, the more it moves. The reason why people have difficulty meditating is because they try to meditate. You don't try. It's such an easy way to get this water to be perfectly still. You put it down. You let it go. You leave it alone and it becomes still all by itself. There's no way I could ever hold that water that still. I let go and it becomes still. Ajahn, my teacher, used to say, when you walk in the forest, you see the leaves on the trees and on the bushes moving. Why are they moving? Because the wind is blowing. As long as the wind blows, those leaves will be moving. When the wind stops, those leaves will still be moving because it hasn't lost all its energy yet. But when the wind stops, the leaves move less and less and less. Until if the wind stops long enough, the leaves on the trees and the bushes stop moving completely. They become perfectly still, and they can stay like that for a long time. In that simile, the leaves on the bushes and the trees, they symbolize your mind inside of you. Why does it keep moving? Because of the wind. That's only just a little bit of visual effects or sound effects. I try to do the best I can with limited resources, but nevertheless, that means the winds of wanting to be still. Even when I teach a retreat, like a Bandarawela, there's many of you who were there who are now here today. How many times did I tell you, don't want anything. Don't try to get stillness. Don't try to get deep meditations. Just put it down and let go. Stop the winds of wanting. And then be patient. You notice that your mind moves less and less and less. It becomes still. When I was there, the simile comes up. I never intended to say this, but this is one of the great similes of meditation. Many of you who are Buddhists here really want to become so one. Is that the case? Stream with us? Do you want it? You really want it? If you really want it, you've got no hope. Stop wanting. I will now tell you how stream reading happens. Are you interested? Are you interested? Yes. That's better. Audience participation is great, because otherwise you fall asleep. I'm not sure if you're really listening to me. Once there was a donkey, and the donkey was used by a poor person to drag the cart. Sometimes in the cart they had produce, sometimes they had people. But you may know a donkey is very stubborn. I remember as a kid, please excuse me, my mother telling my father, "You're as stubborn as a donkey." So a real donkey, the person who's cruel and not wise, will take a stick and try and hit the donkey to make the donkey pull the cart. That doesn't work. Instead, you take that stick and you tie it to the donkey's neck. So the front of the stick is about 2 foot in front of the donkey's head. And on the end of the stick, you put a string. On the end of the string, you put a carrot. I'm not sure what donkeys in Colombo would like. Maybe a hopper or something in the morning. You put something on the end of the string which the donkey likes. The donkey will not move because of pain, but it sees something it likes and the donkey will move right towards it. And when the donkey moves, then the stick moves, the string moves, and the hopper moves as well. That is how they get the donkeys to pull the carts. But, do you ever see donkey carts in Colombo anymore? You know why? Because the donkeys learned Buddhism. They found out how to catch that carrot on the end of the string. And what does the donkey do? The donkey keeps moving towards the carrot, running towards the carrot, and you can see the carrot. It's right in front of you. You move towards it, it moves away from you. That's like so one. You can see it seems so easy, you move towards it, it moves further away. But the Buddhist donkey is smart. The Buddhist donkey runs as fast as they can after the carrot, really fast. The carrot is still 2 foot in front of the donkey's mouth. But then the donkey stops. Do you ever remember how Angulimala became an Arhat? He was running after the Buddha, could never catch the Buddha. And Angulimala said to the Buddha, "Stop, stop, monk, stop." And the Buddha said, "I have stopped. You stop." And Angulimala stopped. Just like the donkey stopped. What happens next? The carrot goes further away than it's ever been before. This is where people are not patient enough to allow meditation to do its job. You think it's getting worse. Actually, Brahm, the Buddha, was all wrong. Be patient, because the carrot goes so far away, 4 foot in front of the donkey. It's never been that so far away before. But then the carrot starts coming towards the donkey. All the donkey needs to do is sit there and wait. It swings up, it swings back. Soon it's at its normal position, 2 foot in front of the donkey's mouth. The donkey just waits, because now the carrot is coming towards the donkey. The donkey's not chasing the carrot's coming towards the donkey. And the last thing which the donkey has to remember, as it comes very, very close, the donkey has to remember nature, compassion. It's like the donkey has to think, carrot, the door of my mouth is open to you. Come in. Have you ever seen how big donkey's teeth are? If the donkey doesn't open its mouth to let the carrot in, it'll just bounce off the teeth. That's what you have to do. Open the door of your heart and let the Dhamma in. That's how people become someone. In brief, this water didn't move at all the time I said that talk. Now it's moving again. Why is that? Because so often when people meditate, it's not still yet. Come on, be still. Oh, come on, be still. Maybe I should put it over here. It's easier to become still. You still yet? No. Stop interfering. Be patient. Let the mind become still. Don't make the mind become still. So what happens when it does become still? There's an old saying, and it's mostly from Mahayana Buddhism. There may be some reference to this in Theravada as well. They used to say, the best way to see the full moon on a Poya day is when you go up into the mountains and you see the reflection of the full moon in a lake which is perfectly still. The lake becomes like a mirror. There's no ripples on the surface at all. And then you can see a perfect, undistorted reflection of the moon. They say that's the most beautiful way to see it. It's not the aesthetics of that moon. It's the fact that when the lake, the water, is perfectly still, there is no distortion of what you see. It's one of the reasons why the Buddha said, samadhi, stillness, samadhi pacciya yatha bhutayana dasana. Stillness is the cause for seeing things as they truly are. When the mind is still, you start to see deeply. One of the things which you notice when the mind is still, the clarity of your mind increases. The energy of your mind increases. Mindfulness is a huge thing. It's a product now in the West. People literally sell it, sell courses to increase your mindfulness. It's missing so many important parts which are important. First of all, the power of mindfulness. Everybody is mindful somehow. Even somebody who is drunk manages to find their way home somehow. They got a little bit of mindfulness, but not enough. But the more you become still, the more your mindfulness changes from being like the light of a torch, whose batteries are pretty dull, to a recharged torch, which is bright, to like the headlight of a car, which is really bright, to like a searchlight, which the army uses, which is incredibly bright, to something which is like a sun, who's enormously bright. This is an interesting and important part of your mind training. Your mindfulness increases enormously, and you can see things which you've missed before. I like quoting outside of the Buddhist sutras. This is William Blake, the poet in, I think, 1700s, who said that to see a world in a grain of sand, to see a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. This is where your awareness starts to get so strong, you see things which other people can't see. A world in a small grain of sand, a little wild flower, looks incredibly beautiful. These are lovely flowers, but these are big. This is where your awareness is so refined. You see so much beauty in everything. And this is what happens when you start growing your mindfulness. Just looking, let's look at the carpet in front of you, this red carpet. Is it red? You've got many bits of black and pinks and whites. It's multicolored. But if you don't look closely enough, you'll miss it. As a scientist before, I had to increase my awareness, my mindfulness, to see deeper than others, so you can see many of the relationships in our world which no one else could see. This is important if you want to become innovative. I mentioned this last night, many of those big companies such as Google, Dell, Facebook, when I went to see those places, you could see that those places did have meditation rooms. In the companies in Sri Lanka, supposed to be a Buddhist land, do you have meditation rooms? It would help enormously increase the productivity, innovation of this land. I never got to talk much about meditation and health, but honestly I've seen so many. Look, a quick story. This gentleman came to one of my retreats, and the first day I had all these complaints. Can you please ask all the meditators to breathe quietly? Because he was going all the time. And I had to make the announcement, please, that Australian gentleman has got a big tumour in his nose. He's dying of sinus cancer. This is his last chance to do something about it. His medical team has given up. He's ready to die. For 9 days he meditated. And the last day, I was already in the car going back to the next appointment. He came running after me. Ajan Brahm, please stop. What's happened? He said the previous meditation, he was doing his usual, and he heard what he called a popping sound. Pop. And he could breathe through his nose for the first time in months. It only lasted about a minute, then it closed up again. But that was weird. No medication, no radiation, no surgery, he could breathe. Then it stopped. Then afterwards, all I could say is just carry on. Carry on what you've been doing. 6 months later, when I went to Sydney again, this man came up to me and said, do you remember me? I said, no. Who are you? He said, I was that man. Okay, good. Excellent. So he said he was that man. And you know when you see someone dying of cancer, and when they're full recovery, they do look very different. That's why I couldn't remember him. He smiled and said he's now in full remission. No cancer left. And he said now he's spending the rest of his life, however long he has, teaching other people how to meditate. It saved his life. And that's one case out of so many I've experienced in the years I've been a monk. Please don't underestimate the power of these meditations. to make the mind peaceful, to make the brain rest, to relax deeply. And then you find you get some health, great energies coming up. I've now been a monk, this is my 49th year as a monk. I haven't been sick for the last 32 of them. No COVID. Even though I'm a bit of a sort of a hypocrite, because I tell everyone, please be positive. Except for when you have a cancer, have a rat test. If you test yourself for COVID, please be negative. That's the one time I encourage negativity. But nevertheless, sometimes you're interested. What is one of the great causes for health? Peace. Peace of mind. Happiness. And don't think, Ajan, you're a monk, you don't know any stress. I have so many responsibilities. So many monks, so many temples, so many spiritual director of this, spiritual advisor of that, which I take all seriously. Looking after bhikkhunis, Buddhist nuns. I took that seriously, worked my butt off to make sure that's possible. Worked my butt off to make sure there's forest monasteries and retreat centres in many, many places. I work very hard. I don't get sick. Why? Because I know how to meditate. Thank you all for listening. So, that's a talk about the heart of Buddhism, meditation. There'll be more talks coming soon. And now I will invite Venerable Dhammita to do a translation into Sinhala. For those of you who don't understand English, or maybe some of the words were a little difficult for you, Venerable Dhammita is a great translator. He works really hard and also does excellent translations. But while he's translating, please stay here. He's only going to do a summary of the talk which I gave. And after the summary, then I go to the next room to do I think it's a guided meditation, isn't it? I believe so anyway. But okay, where are you going to do the translation from? From up here? Okay, so please don't move, otherwise it's disrespectful for Venerable Dhammita. Even if you know the English, you don't need a similar translation. It's a wonderful way for you to do 15 minutes of quiet meditation. Thank you for listening.
වැඩමවදාළ මහා සංඝරත්නයන් අවසරයි මෙහෙණින් වහන්සේ ශ්‍රද්ධාවන්ත පින්වතුනි එතකොට අද දවසේ අතිපූජනීය අජාන් බ්‍රහ්මවංශ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ දැන් අප වෙත දේශනා කරපු මේ දේශනාවේ සිංහල පරිවර්තනයයි කෙටි සිංහල පරිවර්තනයයි දැන් සිදු කරන්න හදන්නේ. එතකොට උන්වහන්සේ අද දවසේ දේශනාවට මාතෘකා කරගත්තේ ඒ බුදුදහමේ හදවත භාවනාවයි කියන මාතෘකාව යටතේ උන්වහන්සේ දේශනා කළේ. ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේ ඉස්සලාම ආරම්භ කරේ දැන් අපි මෙහෙට එන වෙලාවේ වාර්ෂාවක් පතිතුණා. ඉතින් ටිකක් කලබලකාරී තත්ත්වයක් ඇති වුණා. ඉතින් අර සාමාන්‍ය පරිදි අපි ඍණාත්මක වෙන්නේ නැතුව ඒ වෙනුවට හිතන්න කියලා කිව්වා දෙවිවරු අපිට දැන් මේ උඩේ ඉඳලා වතුරක් කරනවා කියලා ඒ විදිහට ඒ සංඥාව වෙනස් කරගෙන ඒ විදිහට සතුටු විදිහට ඒ ගැන සලකන්න කියලා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ විදිහටයි ආරම්භ කරේ. ඉතින් ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ඉතින් බණ්ඩාරවල වැඩසටහන අවසන් කරලා කොළඹට වැඩි. ඉතින් දැන් සතියකට අධික කාලයක තිස්සේ ලංකාවේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ දැක්කා කියලා කිව්වා ලංකාවේ අයගේ ඒ සිනාම සමුහුණ ඒ සිනාව ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේ ඒකම මුල පෙරුවා ඒ බුදු පියාණන් වහන්සේගේ ඒ ධම්මචේතිය සූත්‍රය කියලා එක සූත්‍ර දේශනාවක ඒ පසේනදී කෝසල රජතුමා ඒ ඇයි ආරාමයට එන්න කැමති වුණේ බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ මුණ ගැහිලා මේ විදියට ඒ කතා බහ කරන්න රජතුමා එන පොරොත්තුක් තිබුණා. එතකොට ඒ රජතුමා කියලා තිබ්බේ බුදු පියාණන් වහන්සේ ආපුවම ඇයි ඔබතුමා එන්නේ කියලා. ඒ රජතුමා දකිනවා ඒ ආරාමේ සංඝයා වහන්සේලා හරිම සතුටින් සිනාමුසු මොහොනින් ඉන්නවා කියලා. ඒක රජතුමාගේ සිත් ගත්තා කියලා මේ විදිහට රජතුමා කියලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට බුදු පියාණන් වහන්සේ ඒක අනුමත කරා කියනවා. ඔව් ඒක ඇත්ත. රජතුමනි ඒ සංඝයා වහන්සේලා භාවනා කරනවා නම් එතකොට ඒ භාවනා කරද්දී ගැඹුරු භාවනාව ලබනවා. ඒකම විදර්ශනා ඒ අනිකුත් අවබෝධයෙන් ලබනවා කියලා ඒ විදිහට ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ බුදු පියාණන් වහන්සේ දේශනා කළා කියලා. ඉතින් ඔය විදිහට ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ඊට පස්සේ භාවනාව කියන එක ලේසි කරන්න කියන එක උන්වහන්සේ උත්සාහ කරා ඒත් ගන්නන්න අපිට. ඉතින් ඊට පස්සේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේගේ ඒ කාලේ අත්දැකීමක් විස්තර කරා. උන්වහන්සේ ඒ කේම්බ්‍රිජ් සරසවියේ ඒ සෛද්ධාන්තික භෞතික විද්‍යාව වලට ඒ ඉගෙනගෙන ඊට පස්සේ විභාග වලට ලියද්දී ඒ කොච්චර විභාග ඒ එක දවසේ උදේ හවසේ විදිහට විභාග එකට ලියනකොට කොච්චර ඒක ආතතිකාරී දෙයක්ද කියන එක උන්වහන්සේ විස්තර කරා. ඉතින් එතරම්දී උන්වහන්සේ ඒ ලැබිච්ච ඒ අතරමැදි විවේකයේදී ඉක්මනින් උන්වහන්සේ මුකුත්ම කෑමක් ගත්තේ නැහැ කියලා කිව්වා. කෙලින්ම භාවනාවයි කරේ කියලා කිව්වා. එතකොට මේ භාවනාව කරද්දී උන්වහන්සේට ඒ ඉස්සලා ලියුව ඒ පේපර් එක ගැන අමතක කරලා ඊළඟට ලියන්න තියෙන පේපර් එක ගැන අමතක කරලා මේ මොහොතේ ඉඳගෙන ඒ තමන්ගේ තිබ්බ බයවල් ඒ විභාගය සම්බන්ධයෙන් හෝ ඒ අනිකුත් තිබ්බ ඒ බයවල් ඒ විදිහට සංසිඳවා ගන්න ඒකදී තේරුම් ගන්න උන්වහන්සේට උපකාර වුණා කියලා කියනවා භාවනාව කියන දේ. එතකොට එතනදී උන්වහන්සේට ඒ භාවනා කරනවා කිව්වහම ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ මතක් කරේ ඒ සතිමත් වීම වගේම කාරුණික වීමත්. මොකද ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ kindfulness කියලා වචනයක් උන්වහන්සේ හදාගත්තා කොයින් කරා. ඒ කියන්නේ කාරුණික සතිය කියලා අපිට ඒක පරිවර්තනය කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතකොට ඒ කාරුණික සතිය කියන එක උන්වහන්සේ ගොඩක් වැදගත් කියලා කිව්වා. ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේගේ යාළුවෝ හිතුවලු ඒ දවස්වල විභාග ලියනකොට උන්වහන්සේ මොකක් හරි හොර වැඩක් කරනවා කියලා. මොකද ඒ තරමට උන්වහන්සේ නිවි හැනෙන්නේ නැත්නම් සතුටින් හිටිය මොන දුන්නා විභාගෙට කියලා යාළුවෝ දැක්ක කියලා කිව්වා. ওই විදිහට ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ඒ තමන්ගේ භාවනාව කොහොමද ඒ අධ්‍යාපන ක්ෂේත්‍රයට කොහොමද අධ්‍යාපන ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ ඒ ඉතින් ඒ ළමයින්ට ඒ ශිෂ්‍යයන්ට කොහොමද මේ දේවල් ප්‍රයෝජනට ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ කියලා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ බොහෝ දුරට දේශනා කරනවා. ඉතින් එතනදී උන්වහන්සේ කිව්වා ඒ විදිහේ ඉහළ ඒ අධ්‍යාපන ඒ අපේ තියෙන අරමුණු සාක්ෂාත් කරගන්න අවශ්‍ය වෙන තව දෙයක් තමයි ඒ විෂය කරුණු වලට අමතරව ඒ තමන්ගේ සිතයි කයයි කියන දේ තේරුම් ගන්න එක. ඒක කොහොමද අපි ඒක තේරුම් අරගෙන ඒක දමනය කරගන්නේ? ඒක කොහොමද අපිට ඒ හොඳට ප්‍රයෝජන ගන්න කියන එක හරියට තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ කියලා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මතක් කරනවා. ඉතින් එතනදී සාමාන්‍යයෙන් තවත් කාරණයක් කිව්වා. ඒ වතුර වීදුරුවේ උපමාව සාමාන්‍යයෙන් පෙන්වලා දුන්නා. වතුර වීදුරුවක් අතර අරගෙන එතකොට සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කිව්වේ භාවනාව කියන එක සිත අපි දැන් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් එකඟ කිරීම සිත එකඟ කිරීම වගේ තේරුමක් ගන්නවා. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් පෙන්වනවා වගේ වතුර වීදුරුව ඒක අල්ලගෙන පාලනය කරන්න උත්සාහ කරනවා. අපි බලනවා ඒක නිශ්චල කරන්න, එකඟ කරන්න. ඒ වෙනුවට ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ කැමති පරිවර්තනය ඇවිල්ලා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඉංග්‍රීසි පරිවර්තනය ඇවිල්ලා stillness කියන දේ කියන්නේ නිසල වෙනවා කියන අදහස. ඉතින් එතකොට වතුර වීදුරුව අත්හැරලා බිමින් තිබ්බහම ඒක ඉබේ නිසල වෙනවා වගේ ඔබටත් ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ මතක් කරේ ඒ භාවනාව කියන දේ කරන්න හදන්න එපා. ඒකට වෙන්න ඉඩ අරින්න කියලා නැත්නම් අත්හරින්න කියලා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ මතක් කරා. ඊට පස්සේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ගුරු ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ අජන්චා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේගේ උපමාවක් ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ දැක්වුවා. ඒ උපමාව හැටියට ගහක කොළ තියෙනවා. ඒ ගහේ කොළ හෙලවෙන්නේ හුළඟ නිසා. එතකොට ඒකේ උපමේය විදිහට දැක්ුවේ කොළ කියලා කියන්නේ හිත, සුළඟ කියලා කිව්වේ උවමනාව කියන දේ. අපිට ඒ හිතේ ඇතිවෙන ඒ උවමනාවන් කරන්න උවමනාව ඒ ඕනෑකම තමයි අපේ හිත හැම වෙලාවෙම හොලවන්නේ කියලා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ මතක් කරා. භාවනා කරන කෙනාට තියෙන බාධාව ඒ උවමනා කිරීම කියලා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ දැක්වුවා. දැන් ඒක නිසා ඒ ඉවසීම කියන දේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ නැවතත් මතක් කරා. එතකොට හිතේ චලනය අඩු වෙලා යයි කියලා දැක්වුවා. එතකොට අපෙන් ඇහුවා ඒ වෙලාවේදී අපි කැමතිද සෝතාපන්න වෙන්න කියලා, සෝවාන් වෙන්න කියලා. හැබැයි එහෙම ගොඩක් කැමති නම් ඒක ලැබෙන එකක් නෑ කියලා ඊපස්සේ මේ විදිහට තවතත් ඒ කාරණේ මතු කරා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ අර බෝරුවගේ උපමාව දැක්වුවා. එතකොට ඒ බෝරුවයි කතාව ඉතින් කෙටියෙන් කිව්වා. බෝරුව කියන සත්තු හරිම කියන්නේ මොරන්ඩුයි. එතකොට සාමාන්‍යයෙන් වෙන්නේ මොකද? ඒ අයව දමනය කරගන්න ඕන නිසා අර විදිහේ කැරක්ටරයක් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් බෝරුවගේ ඉස්සරහින් කෝටුවක් දාලා එන්නලා කරත්තේ බැලගෙන තමයි වැඩ ගන්න. එතකොට බෝරුවා හැම වෙලාවෙම කැරක්ටරේ වාගෙන ඉස්සරහට යනවා. එතකොට ඒ වෙනුවට එතනදී දැන් මේ කාලේ ඇයි බෝරුව දකින්න නැත්තේ කියලා ස්වාමීන් ඇහුවා. මොකද බෝරුව දැන් තේරුම් අරන් ඉන්නේ ධර්මයෙන් වැඩ ගන්න කියලා කිව්වා. මොකද කරලා තියෙන්නේ? එතකොට අර කැරටලේ පස්සෙන් දිගටම දුවනවා. හැබැයි හැම වෙලාවෙම ඒ සතාගේ ඉස්සරහින් අඩි දෙකක් විතර ඉස්සරහින් හැම වෙලාවෙම කැරටලේ තියෙන්නේ. කොච්චර වේගෙන් දිව්වත් ඒක ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වෙනුවට ඒ සතා දුවලා ගිහලා ඔයලා ගන්න නතර වුණාම කැරටලේ තවදුරටත් ඉස්සරහට පැද්දිලා ඊට පස්සේ තමන් දෙසට එනවා කැරටලේ. ඊට පස්සේ කට ඇරියාම ඒක කන්න හම් වෙනවා කියලා ඒ විදිහට දැක්වුවා. ඒ වගේ අපි මේ දේවල් පස්සේ හම්බ යන්නේ නැතුව ඒ වෙනකොට නතර වුණොත් ඒ දේවල් අපි ගාවට එනවා. ඒ වෙලාවේදී උන්වහන්සේ තවත් විශේෂ කාරණයක් කිව්වා. ඔබේ හදවතේ දොර විවර කරන්න කියලා කිව්වා. කාරුණික වෙන්න කියලා කිව්වා. එතකොට ඒ දේවල් ඇතුළට ඒ අපේ හදවත තුළ ධර්මය අපේ හදවත තුළට ඒ කියලා කිව්වා. හරියට බෝරුව කට ඇරියාම අර කැරක්ටරේ කට ඇතුළට ආවා. ඉතින් එතනදී ඒ තවත් කාරණයක් විදිහට ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ දැක්වේ දැන් බටහිර ලෝකයේදී ඒ සතිය කියන දේ දැන් බොහෝ දුරට ජනප්‍රිය වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. හැබැයි සතිය කියන දේ බලවත් වෙන්නේ ඒ තැන්පත් වීම තුළින්. ඒ තැන්පත් වීම නැත්නම් ඒ සමාධිය තුළින් එන සතිය තමයි බලවත් වෙන්නේ. ඒක ඉතාම වැදගත් දෙයක් කියලා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ දැක්වුවා. ඉතින් ඒ භාවනාව කියන දේ අපේ ජීවිතවල අපි ලං කරගන්න ඕනේ. ඒක නිසා අපිට උපකාරී වෙනවා අනිකුත් ඒ ක්ෂේත්‍රවල දියුණුවටපත් වෙන්න. ওই විදිහට දේශනා කළා උන්වහන්සේ අවසන් වශයෙන් ඒ සෞඛ්‍යයට ඒක හේතු වෙන හැටි දැක්වුවා. ඒ භාවනා යෝගීන් ඒ උන්වහන්සේ සමග භාවනා කරපු අය ඒ කොහොමද ඒ සමානලාට ඒ පිළිකා වගේ අසනීප වලින් පවා ඒ තත්ත්වයන් සමනය කරගත්ත හැටි ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ විදිහට ඒ කතාවක් දැක්වුවා. ඉතින් මේ විදිහට ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ අවසන් කරා දේශනාව. මේ භාවනාවේ තියෙන බලය කවදාවත් අව탁සේරු කරන්න එපා. ඒක අපි හිතනට වඩා ඉතා බලවත් කිව්වා. ඉතින් ඒ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ කිව්වා ඒ වෙලාවේදී ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේගේ පැවිදි දිවිය දැන් 49 අවුරුද්දක්. ඒකෙන් 32ක් උන්වහන්සේට මතකයක් නැහැ කියලා කිව්වා අසනීප වුණා කියලා. ඉතින් උන්වහන්සේ කල්පනා කරපුවාම උන්වහන්සේ ඒකට හේතු විදිහට ඒ හිතේ තියෙන ඒ සාමය, ඒ ගැඹුරු භාවනා කරන්න පුළුවන්කම, මේ සතුට කියන එක තමයි ඒකට රහස කියලා කිව්වා. ඒ වගකීම් මේ හැම දෙයක්ම තිබියදී උන්වහන්සේ මේ විදිහට ඒ සාමයටපත් වෙන දන්නවා කියලා ඒ විදිහට දක්වලා අපිටත් ඒ භාවනාවේ ඒ සාමය ඒ විදිහේ හොඳ ප්‍රතිඵල ළඟා කරගන්න කියලා ඒ විදිහට අපිට යෝජනා කරලා අපිට තව තවත් දීර්ඝන්නලා අද දවසේ දේශනාව ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ අවසන් කරා. ඔබ සැමට තෙරුවන් සරණයි.